Namaste, good morning, everybody. Namaste from
Good morning,
Nepal.
everyone. Good morning.
Hi, Rupinder. How are you?
Morning, Jyoti. Are you back to India?
Nice to see you. Yes. My first official meeting with you.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Subhash, lovely to see you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Lovely to see you.
After so many years, I'm seeing you. Huh?
Yeah.
How are you?
Time flies. Yeah.
That's good.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Great. Nice to see you working. Great. Great.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Madam, with your permission.
Namaste to everybody from Nepal.
Thank you. Okay. Rupinder, so can we आप रुपिंदर जी को अनम्यूट करो कपिल
Madam is unmuted.
So now Mr. Nakul, myself and Rupinder ji ko aap unmute rakho. Well, good morning everyone. Thank you.
Morning, sir.
So with your permission, madam, we are starting.
Hi, this is Monu Chaudhary.
Yeah, please can we?
Hi, this is Monu Chaudhary from Dojo Caps.
Yeah, please, we are about to start. So please, I would request everyone to mute themselves, except, Mr. Nakul Anand and our chief guest, Mrs. Rupinder Barar. So good morning, friends. Thank you very much for joining us on a Saturday morning. These are tough times, and we all need to, start working hard so that we are able to, fight this crisis that we are all going through. So today we have as our chief guest and speaker, Mrs. Rupinder Barar. She's from the Indian Revenue Service officer from 1990 batch. She's presently the Additional Director General of Tourism, Government of India. Mrs. Barar completed her education from Delhi University and Dar es Salaam University in Tanzania. She has studied history, focus on modern Indian history from Delhi University. And mind you, the best country which came out of crisis after the breakup with Malaysia, Singapore, largely was responsible by Lee Kuan Yew. And we are fortunate that we have an officer with us who has done a master's from in public administration from Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy. So whatever the best practices of Singapore are there, we can hear from Mrs. Barar, and I'm sure she will use some of those policies, not only in the tourism industry, but in reviving our economy in this hour of crisis. Recently, she completed her law also from Bombay University, and she's also enrolled herself in Master of Psychology. My God. Mrs. Barar has worked in various capacities in New Delhi, in Gurgaon, in Faridabad, Patiala, in Ludhiana and Mumbai. Prior to being posted in the Ministry of Tourism, she was holding charge of Commissioner at Large, Commissioner of the Large Taxpayers Unit in the Income Tax Department in Mumbai. So the who's who of the country she was controlling. Mrs. Barar has been nominated to attend a number of training programs in India and overseas to upgrade and sharpen her skills. Mrs. Barar's interest in reading books, music, experimental cooking, and also tarot card reading. So I think I need to get in touch with you for that. Mrs. Barar has been awarded the Finance Minister's Gold Medal in Law in Professional Training and full scholarship for MPA program at the Lik Kuan Yew Singapore University. So, ladies and gentlemen, without we are really fortunate that we have one of the best persons in our administrative services as a speaker today. And now I'll request our chairman, Mr. Nakul Anand, board member of ITC also, to please welcome her on our behalf. Over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Subhash ji. This aviation task force between faith and aviation players welcomes Mrs. Bragg, Additional Director General, Ministry of Tourism, to this task force meeting. Ma'am, we are grateful to you for being always receptive and accommodative to industry's requests and taking them to the highest levels of the government. Ma'am, as you're aware that aviation and tourism is one of the few sectors that are now underperforming, in fact, the only one. The key to GDP revival is through revival of aviation and tourism, and I'll talk more about this later. This task force did have an interaction with the Secretary of the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and we shared with him the following points for aviation-driven tourism growth. It's only right that we bring these to your notice so that you could assist us, guide us, and help us take these forward. The points that we had raised with the Secretary: number one, encourage both airlines and airports to adopt on-the-spot, real-time, latest testing facilities to prevent both symptomatic and asymptomatic passengers to fly out or fly in, thus avoiding all the need for quarantining. Number of countries, ma'am, from everyday reports, Israel being the leader, are working on rapid test kits. There would be a big rush for these when these come, and I imagine that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, 2 or 3 countries are going to announce the availability of these. Our Indian airports, ma'am, must be the first to book these and start these if we can, so that we can at least start domestic tourism and get it back on the air map. Rebuild consumer confidence in air travel in India, for which it is requested for Ministry of Civil Aviation to undertake an extensive consumer campaign across India. I'm unknown to many people. Air travel is perhaps the safest form of travel. I did circulate a document some time back to all my members on saying how, because of the air circulation, it is technically proven that a person sitting next to you who may be less than a feet away is medically 6 to 8 feet away from you because of the circulation of air. Very few people know that. And if things like this were to be made public and such knowledge was to be shared, we would see a faster recovery in tourism. Develop an upgradation to tourist resumption, starting with sectors where air travel is already operating in bubbles by converting them to scheduled airlines. On a graded basis, open airline routes with short haul neighboring tourism and tourism visas. Set up a task force between aviation and tourism, which can regularly meet to identify points of concern and action. Ma'am, if you remember that in the first meeting that we had in March, April, when we had just started off and the pandemic had just about settling in, Faith had put together a 3-way action plan, right, which was survival, revival, and thrival. We haven't been able to get much in the survival. I know every arm of the government, yourself included, has tried very hard. Obviously, the country has its own priorities, but we are not going to look back at that. We're going to look forward. I think there's a great opportunity now to forget the past, forget what didn't happen. We are now seem to be getting out of the pandemic. The vaccine seems to be around the corner. India seems to be at an advanced stage of having ordered the vaccine, has got its distribution policy in place, etc. And perhaps maybe one of the first few countries to start the process very quickly. In this atmosphere, ma'am, we would move from a survival to a revival mode, right? In this revival mode, can we jointly with the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Civil Aviation, all the travel bodies begin with a single line agenda to dwell on the powers that be, that tourism can be the engine to reshape India's recovery, man. The country would now need to reshape its GDP, would need to get back, and it would need every instrument that it can possible to get back to its GDP. Tourism is one such instrument, I mean, a very, very important engine that can help in the speedy recovery of the economy. Can we begin to speak about this? Can we begin to talk about this? Can we begin to write about this so that the government, the powers that be, all stakeholders realize what an important role tourism can play in reshaping this economy looking ahead? Ma'am, explore insurance mechanisms for financially protecting travel agents and tour operators against potential default by airlines. An important point which our travel agent friends had been raising for a long time. We did take it up with the Secretary of Civil Aviation. MICE, ma'am, is going to be an important segment in the next for the next 2 to 3 years. Can we create MICE hubs with all season air connectivity to tourist destinations? Encourage domestic MICE by urging airlines to offer special incentives for MICE travel. Encourage airlines to relook at commercial MICE policies by enhancing deposit time and reducing refund time and payments for MICE that have got cancelled. Encourage airports to allow tourism and travel companies to set up airport counters to enhance tourism experience. Encourage airlines to create domestic travel incentives to push faster domestic revival, and focus on creating new MICE destinations with full air connectivity. Ma'am, we look forward to your kind consideration in taking up these issues. On behalf of the task force, we thank you for your constant guidance and support to the Indian tourism and hospitality industry. And without further ado, ma'am, we'd love your views, ma'am. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Nakul. I think you've summed up everything in a very well way. And I think we are all waiting, Madam, you, as rightly mentioned by Nakul, that you have always, taken our views and our, concerns to the highest level. So now we are eager to listen from you. What is our way forward? And what are the plans of the Ministry of Tourism, and how Ministry could get involved with this task force and try to revive this sector and the economy as fast as possible. Thank you.
And ma'am, how as a private sector can we help, ma'am?
Thank you.
What role can we play?
Sure. So good morning to everyone, and thank you, Mr. Goyal. That was a very, flattering and an indulgent introduction, I should say. But I'm not complaining. It's always nice to be indulged by all of you. And thank you, Mr. Anand, for opening the day's discussion on some very positive notes. And indeed, it's been not just a challenging, but an extremely challenging time for the country, for the world, and particularly for tourism and hospitality, obviously, because the most significant requirement of travel itself being shut down has literally meant everything literally got stopped in the tracks. Well, we are happy to note for the last few weeks that there is a certain amount of revival to both of demand and of actual movement. People are traveling. If we saw the data given out by Civil Aviation yesterday, they're looking at 80% of the operation of the domestic flights at this juncture. All that points to a demand that is coming back. People are feeling more and more confident. And there, I think we can sort of pat our back as a country that the kind of scenario that was emerging in the beginning, if we all remember pictures coming from other parts of the world, it was far more scary. And we have said that at other platforms also, while every single person who has lost their life or have gone through the experience of COVID is, we are sad about that, but yet as a country, we are happy to see that our rate of recovery, the percentage of people who got afflicted is far lesser than what it could have been. So perhaps because of the extreme lockdowns, perhaps because of being a nation that respects law, and therefore there have been cases where people have not necessarily worn their mask, but I think we can definitely as a nation look back and say we did do something right to be where we are today. But also because it's a period of great amount of, I should say, depression economically also, and in so many ways, because we all got jolted, because this is unprecedented. No one ever could have imagined that something like this could have struck today's world. I think in a sense, it's also a challenge to the human mind's ability to think that we are always above everything. And it's nature's way of reminding us that even a small little thing can literally stop us in the track. But that's what has also pushed all of us to, I think out of the box. Because if things were going routine, you probably don't innovate, you probably don't, introspect and see that are we really doing things the right way? Or are we also missing out opportunities that existed? And that's going to bring me to the domestic tourism chapter a little later. So we'll talk on that with a little more focus. But because one is currently looking at now the revival, the recovery and the revival stage, what is to be done? I am so happy to hear all the things that Mr. Anand mentioned about, because, and why I'm happy, because I think we are thinking on the same page. So that gives a great amount of comfort to us in the ministry. Between you and us, there seems to be a harmony, at least in the thought process. And all that therefore needs to be done is to actually start working together on a few things. In terms of working from the government point of view, we already have an interministerial coordination committee that functions at the secretary level. And that's not as a response to the pandemic, but that's an institutional structure that has existed even earlier. It's just that in these times, it just got a little more life into it, I should say, and the interactions actually got escalated, because obviously we all have been very, very concerned with the way the pandemic panned out for all of you. Taking it forward, now what is it that we need to do? I'm so glad, therefore, that you mentioned the need for insurance. And we are already studying the Singapore, not just the Singapore model, but also the others, as to how is it as a country that can we incentivize travelers to come in. If there is a certain sense of security that they will have, it will definitely aid the process. So the ministry is in dialogue both with insurance providers as well as the Ministry of Finance, that could the government take the tab in a manner, maybe, maybe not, but could we at least put a structure in place? So there is a lot of learning for all of us in that, and we will be taking it forward. In terms of opening the airports with mandatory testing, yes, that is also under very active consideration. And currently some airports already do have that. And we hope that that can be added for the others. Well, there are some of the things that are under construction, so I may not be able to make a lot of comments on that, but that the thoughts are already being deliberated upon, and not just in the verbal level, but actually in writing, is something that I can assure all of you, that these are the very ideas that are being thought about. There's a mention of air bubbles even in the domestic sector. Yes, that is also a fantastic thought, and we will take it forward with the Ministry of Civil Aviation. I'm sure they would love to do it, because everyone in the government wants to revive and kick back the enthusiasm that, in fact, tourism has been displaying in India. If we look at the data of the last 5 or 6 years, it's so encouraging to see that the domestic demand of travel, of the domestic traveler, whichever mode they may have used, grew from 128 crores to a phenomenal 232 crores in just 5 years. It's a reflection on a lot of things. It's a reflection on disposable incomes. It's a reflection on aspirations growing. It's a reflection on improved infrastructure in the country, which is enabling people to actually set out and travel. Similarly, if we look at the foreign visitors data in the same period, roughly about a 5-year period, you're looking at a cumulative compound annual growth rate of 7.31, which is a large percentage of growth. And we've grown, therefore, in 2019 to a 10.93 million of foreign travelers coming in different categories. So I think as a country, that there is an opportunity in this sector, and there is an opportunity for us in the various elements when we look at that, whether it is MICE, whether it is medical tourism, whether it is just heritage tourism, whether it is yoga, wellness. I mean, there are just so many elements that are attracting the world to India. There is no reason why we should not be working in making sure that people feel confident about coming back to our country. And we do believe and understand and agree with you that these few small measures can be game changers. And therefore, we are definitely working on them already. And after today's meeting, I'm sure we shall be, further pushed and propelled into speedier and more energetic action, because it always helps to take ideas from all of you, because it's your industry, it's your sector. We are mere enablers. And therefore, we'll be happy to get some written document also after today's meeting and flag those points out. But I must assure all of you that there is no dearth of either interest or inclination or actually doing things. So perhaps what Nakulji, you pointed out about the bit on communicating. A lot of things are happening, but despite there being a body that actually is supposed to coordinate us, but somewhere the communication is perhaps not as robust as it probably needs to be. And that's where the lack of confidence sometimes, or the lack of faith by faith, that whether should we be doing enough, or are we doing enough, or is there more to do? I can assure all of you through this platform that whatever has been mentioned today is already under consideration and actively under consideration. So please do not lose heart on that account at all. Either from our ministry or from the Ministry of Civil Aviation, there is no dearth of ideas that are being explored by various service providers. In fact, Udan 3 already has operationalized 21 routes out of the 46 that got sanctioned. And those 21 are, some of them are really interesting to us. They are between Dimapur and Imphal, they're between Bangalore, Mysore, there's a Varanasi, Patna, there's Agartala, Aizawl, a lot of focus on Northeast. Similarly, the Udan 4 has also announced 78 more routes. And we are looking forward, therefore, to a very, very enhanced connectivity to lesser known and areas that have a more demand already coming in. So on that front, I think really, if we look at the way we are going as a country, I think we have all the reason to make sure that the little dots that need to be connected in enabling the benefits of infrastructure are not lost by any of us. If we look at the passenger traffic on the airports, again, I think our airports in India are some of the finest in the world. Whether we look at the Delhi airport, the Mumbai airport, Bengaluru, Kolkata, Hyderabad, I'm sure with all of you, you'll agree that there is no dearth of world-class infrastructure, if I may say so. But we ourselves are becoming an example for many countries in how airports are built and how airports are operated. And no wonder, therefore, Delhi has last year looked at a passenger traffic of 67.3 million. And that's not a low number by any standards. If you go at Mumbai, it's at something like 45 plus million passenger traffic last year. So what we do need to do, and we understand our responsibility, that because the pandemic has created a sense of insecurity in everyone, and there is talk of vaccine, and there is the reason to feel a little happy about it. Tentative steps for now, it's early time, so we cannot really say exactly when, but at least it seems to be somewhere on the horizon, and we hope that the vaccine is enabled and is actively available to all of us also at the earliest. On that front also, with the kind of attention that the Honorable Prime Minister is himself giving of interacting at the ground level with the research and the development teams in the sector of vaccine, I think all these together is what is going to enable the whole the engine to kind of find fuel once again. And if we look at it in a more comprehensive manner, therefore, as to what all is going to go and create that growth factor back, we should feel, I think, encouraged as a country, because there is no sector that is being left untouched by the highest level of the executive. So I think we should really take a lot of, I should say, confidence building within ourselves first. It's only when we are going to be confident that the government and the stakeholders, the citizens and the corporates and everyone is working together to bounce back as a country, I think we will be able to create far more confidence in travelers themselves. I did my maiden trip last weekend to Calcutta after the pandemic struck. And I must share, and I actually did put out a very crudely recorded video of my own, at the airport, and I found everything was so comfortable. And I have told my teams, I said, we need to start putting small little videos like those so that it is not just a orchestrated looking video, but it's a genuine traveler's video, which says that, okay, I went in, there were sanitizers everywhere, people were keeping a reasonable distance, there was mask being worn by virtually everyone. In the flight, people kept respecting the shield, even though we get inputs, sometimes people saying, oh, there weren't people who were following the rules. But I can say from my maiden experience that I found most travelers being very, very responsible. That kind of messaging needs to go out, and we're going to push that messaging in a big way in the coming week. And that brings me to what I touched on, the domestic demand factor, a factor that was being ignored by all of us in terms of the potential it has. And I can only say to all of you that we hope that this does not remain a focus area for us and you, only as a response to the pandemic, as a stopgap arrangement. There's a huge potential sitting in the market from the perspective of the domestic tourism. And somewhere, I think we've been focusing too much in bringing people from the outside. Well, we should, because they bring in a lot of foreign exchange for us, and they are high value tourists. However, within India, and if we see the kind of variety that is there in the country, if you're a person living in North India, going anywhere else in the country becomes like such a unique experience. I think we need to leverage that. And we need to add value to a segment that has hitherto grown organically, but hasn't really grown with the kind of professional focus that needs to be there. In fact, that has, to me at least, it's been a revelation. Because every single time that we step out now and we see the kind of demand that has been generated in Himachal or Uttarakhand or in Goa, I can say from Calcutta, because I just went there, on the Heritage Trail, virtually everybody, the Heritage Home, is booked for the next coming few weeks. That's the kind of demand, and it's not even very low cost. Some of them actually fairly expensive segments. But there are people. There are enough people in all income brackets in India who are more than happy to travel within India. But I think it is for all of us to put the package together. Today, as we speak here, I was running a webinar from Agra on the Dekho Apna Desh series. And I got a few comments yesterday when we sent out a flyer saying, oh, we are going to do we are going to do Agra. So a lot of comments came, oh, do you still need to sell Taj? How come you're doing a webinar on Taj? I said, no, we are not doing a webinar on Taj. Agra is far more than Taj. And in today's presentation, Taj is going to be mentioned only in the end for a minute, minute and a half. There's so much to showcase in our cities. But somewhere the way we are putting together information, and when Nakulji, you said, what is it that we can do together? I think we need to create far more organized informational platforms. Because the moment you think of cities, you still believe that, oh, okay, you know the iconic things of those places, but then beyond that, you don't know. Calcutta itself, I've been there a few times now, and I still believe I've only seen about 5% of it. So many layers. But if I actually set out to search information, there isn't enough. There are so many workshops that happen because there is so much demand, even in the domestic market, for experiential learning. People want to go and do those arts and crafts and little things, but that's not happening. So I think that's where we need to work together with all of you to create, maybe through CSR fundings, maybe through government fundings, maybe through joint efforts on how to carry forward and how to create a small little change, because that's all that's needed. That little effort at creating an island outside, which is more aesthetic, adds a lot of welcome value to a place. I think those are some of the things that we should work on. But coming back again to the focus on aviation, since that is the subject today, I will like to just assure all of you that enough is being thought of and done, but I will pick a lot of ideas from all of you today and add them to whatever we are already doing. And we'll be more than happy to have you with us here next week, either through a document or personally or through an email, where you can point out all the things that we believe we should be doing in addition to whatever we are doing. I will also send out a mail to you to tell you what we are doing, because as I speak, I may have even forgotten a few things that we do. So I'll put it out in a more organized fashion as to what are the initiatives that we are taking up. And wherever there are gaps, we're more than happy to take them forward as we look at a phase of very robust recovery and revival. But I can only say that if we see the whole focus even on the Buddhist sector, there is a whole committee under the Secretary of Tourism that works to leverage on Buddhist sector. And we are working with civil aviation to increase both international and domestic flights, because we understand through data that there are 550 million Buddhists around the world. And India clearly is a seat of great heritage when it comes to the Buddhist heritage. And we need to leverage it far more than what we are doing currently. If I look at medical value tourism figures, India is being ranked 6th amongst 46 countries by the association that creates the ranking. All this gives us so much confidence. We look at heritage rankings, any ranking, we seem to be there. And therefore, I am extremely optimistic and would like to therefore end on that note, that just putting a few things together in a more organized fashion and creating the dots between the different efforts that are being done, whether by the roads, whether by civil aviation, whether by the tribal ministry, whether by the culture ministry, whether by civil aviation, whether by the state governments. I think it's important that we link the dots so that India as a country needs to look like a country which is coming together and is the powerhouse of the 21st century. And there is no reason for us not to believe in that. I think we've been doing some really, really fantastic things. And before I end, I would also like to share on that note that in all the content that we are developing this time for airing both at the domestic as well as in the international levels, I have asked the teams, I said, there is a lot of apprehension around how does India open? And I remember, I think Nakulji, you had perhaps made that suggestion that we need to send out a visual message also, that when a person lands at an airport, what is the kind of welcome that's going to be? We are in a very, very advanced stage of developing content on that. In the next few weeks, as travel opens up for international travelers, the message will be out there on all kinds of platforms, digital, televisions, everywhere, showcasing that when you land in India at the different airports, what is it going to look like for you? So that's an important content coming up. Nakulji, you're muted.
Include the Sathi also, the certification
Yes.
program?
Yes, we are going to add
Lovely.
that also. Going to add that also.
Thank you.
And in addition, we are also going to create more content, because somewhere every year we keep adding, I would say, value to the content. And one of the things we noticed was that we do take you to monuments, we take you to cities, we take you to places, but we are not showing and leveraging on the growing infrastructure in the country. So the content needs to show that when you land in India, you're landing in a country which may be thousands and thousands year old, but at the same time, it is backed up with infrastructure which is as modern as it can get. So the content needs to reflect that. And I've told my teams that when a content starts, a 30-seconder, a 60-seconder, we need to show that there are highways, there are 4 lanes, 6 lanes, there's an airport, it's a modern airport that you're coming out of as a traveler. So there is some content, but we need to focus a lot more on the kind of road networks. After US, we are today the second largest road network country in the world. So I think there are reasons to feel happy about. If we look at the airports, 130 plus airports, out of which with Kushinagar getting added, and I think if I'm not wrong, 19 becoming of international capacities to receive flights. So there is enough to, I think, feel good about. And with a better weather setting in, with the vaccine hopefully on the horizon, we look forward to, I think, a very, very strong bounce back in 2021. as we are in the last month of this year, I think we should. I'm so happy to see Subhashi also smiling and feeling cheerful. And the worst is definitely behind us. And we look forward to working with all of you together in the months to come and strongly bounce back. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope I made sense, and always a pleasure to be with all of you.
Thank you very much, madam. I think when you said bounce back, that brought a smile on my face. And before I open it to all the associations presidents to respond,
I've got lots.
Mr. Nakul, is
In
there
office.
anything you would like to respond, or can I open it to the?
No, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to Rupinderji for all that she said, and I'm glad that I think that the single takeaway from this, of course, I like her point, and I think it's a very important viewpoint that while we showcase our monuments and all, let us show the world that we are a modern country also, that we are the best of both. You don't have to suffer to come and see these. You live in absolute luxury and comfort when you come in. I think that's an important takeaway. One of the things that I would just like to reiterate, and since the whole industry is here, etc., that can there be this common communication of how tourism can be the engine to reshape the economy? And since we are getting into the revival mode, and that is what would give us a whole lot of other hopeful benefits and attention, right? Rather than now crying on the past that we didn't get this, we didn't get that, because that phase is over, right? For reasons that, and that's why we take that's why we seek ma'am's support and the ministry's support. That could we coin together a common line, right? That tourism, the engine for GDP growth or something, and let's all begin to use that and extensively in all our communication over the next few months.
Thank you very much, Nakul. Now, madam, we are recording everything, and this is to the viewers that because we have 10 associations, I would request all the presidents not to give any lecture, just to make their points in a point form. And those who will not be able to ask questions, you can send it to us in the chat box, or also on by email, and in the report that we'll send to the ministry, we will incorporate all of them. So first I'll ask IATO, is any Mr. Pranav Sarkar or Rajiv Mehra, are you there? Or I saw EM Najib. Anyone from IATO who would like to ask anything?
Yes, Mr. Goyal, good morning to everyone. I am Pranab Sarkar here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, okay. Good morning to all of you, and good morning, ma'am. Thank you very much for giving us a very brief and detailed note that what all you are doing, but there are a lot we need to do together. We have written to you many letters, but they are all, we have not got any answer for that, whether it is concerning to your ministry or other ministry like MDA, we are waiting, like recognition of tour operators, new procedure under new normals, we are waiting. Last meeting we had on 4th of November, but till then, till now, we are still waiting to hear from you. Plus, we have written to you on SEIS subject, but till date, we are not getting any support from the government. We have not got any relief, but the SEIS, at least one hope tour operators are facing, that we are waiting. We have requested Secretary Tourism for consider the opening up of international flights and e-visas, at least a date to be announced in consultation with the Ministry of Home Affairs, that they should keep a date, whether it is from now 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, at least the date, so that some tentative programs can be chart out, because all the tour operators abroad, they are working on their brochures now. And if India is not opening, they will remove from the brochure. Then there is no point that we are talking so much so about the inbound tourism and Ministry of Tourism we are doing. We will be miss the bus. And secondly, we have to plan out on the marketing of international marketing features, where we need to go forward and plan out. We had one meeting only till now, that on the international marketing procedures and how to go about. That was a very fruitful meeting, and we are expecting more meetings to happen. And secondly, on domestic front, that we need to open up. That is true. All the domestic airlines and the domestic Indian hotels may be benefited, but when the domestic tour operators are not being used by the most of the tourists at the moment, because now they are traveling only drivable distance of the by their own cars and visiting the nearby destinations. But on the other hand, if I give you one example, that Maharashtra is not opening any monuments till now, and Ajanta, Ellora, they are the most sufferers, because flights are open to Aurangabad from all these cities, but because of monuments are not open, they are going to withdraw the flights within a month's time, I'm sure, because no airline would like to fly empty. And Aurangabad is a very vital point. And Taj Mahal is one of the monument. Limiting to 5,000 is very, very less at this moment, because now gradually the Ministry of Culture should look into increasing the numbers. Because I've been to Agra 30 times, I never visited Taj Mahal. I always visited Taj Mahal. So visiting Agra and not visiting Taj Mahal is, not understanding. I will not be able to digest that I have visited Agra, but I have not visited Taj Mahal. So the number should be increased slowly. So these are few points. I'm not saying that you have the total control. We have written to Minister of Culture also that they should open up, and we have also written to Minister of Culture, copy to you also, that there should be some SOPs for visiting the monuments. Those need to be declared soon. And we had a meeting with BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards, where we requested them also to put forward all the ASI monuments under BIS standards, so that at least we are able to, project as international monument for all ASI monuments. Those level has to come up. Though we have a different entry ticket for the international visitors, but the facility wise and the surrounding, the cleanliness, all these things need to be looked into, including parking and accessibility. So therefore there is a very huge work pending, and this is the time we should take care. We had a interactive meeting with the uh, joint secretary, culture also, where we have taken up these issues, but we are waiting all the answers till now. So with this, I'm just like to close now, because there are many people, they are also talking. We can sit across the table and discuss more whenever it is possible. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you, Purnab. I think you've just summed up everything what is needed by the industry very well. Could I request Amrish Tiwari, because he has to go for another meeting. Amrish, are you there?
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good
Say
morning,
your
ma'am.
things in points, and then we can go to the.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for outlining the ministry initiative. And since there is a positive buzz about the COVID vaccine is coming up, so all over the world, if you see, ma'am, the top 20 or 30 destination in terms of tourism, they already start very aggressive marketing plan, be it a MICE or for the tourism, and doing lots of things. So like in the similar platform of Dekho Apna Desh, if we can start Discover India to rediscover yourself or something like that in similar line, to FTOs, foreign tour operator, in on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, we can start doing, because this is the right time to approach the country before they print out their brochure and make a program. So it's very critical to have an aggressive marketing approach and a strategy to this. Regarding the MICE, I although support Dada for the opening the date, maybe second quarter or third quarter. Regarding MICE, we requested to have a separate MICE fund, because ISCC has come up, Pragat Maidan Convention Center come up, Mumbai is coming with the big convention center. I learned from the ministers on that day, Khajuraho has come up with the big convention centers, and so there are be identified at ICPB 20 MICE destination. which have a huge potential to develop mice, will share with you. And we can have a mice policy. And in fact, in your smart city plan, if mice is included part of the smart city plan, where we can give our input how mice can, grow their smart city in a much better way, that make lots of sense. Similarly, 26 million tourists traveling outbound, and out of them around 18 million are the mice tourists. If we can work out an incentive scheme within domestic, how can we can incentivize this corporate incentive travel to bring their business back. Faith has given earlier suggestion a 200% expenditure weightage, that our similar line can be think about on doing this thing, ma'am. At ICPB, we asked the bidding support fund, in which we are expecting, because to do that, my contribution to GDP is around 3.26%. So this creation of corpus fund in having the brand ambassador program for the mice industry. Globally, you see lots of people like Mr. Anand, or we can have a renowned personalities, 2030, we can identify it, and they can become a brand ambassador for the mice industry for the country. And that can give a good, the exposure and credibility. Similarly, we can have the single window clearance for organizing mice event in India. So the nodal agency, as of now, people go to the tourism industry, and then the three MEA, MHA, and their concerned ministry. So we can have either through the ICPB or through the ministry, a single window clearance system that can help a lot to bring the international conference to India. And mice has to be the center stage in your planning promotion. But I found mice still is considered the niche product, and which is actually an economic activity. So polo and the mice goes together in the ministry mindset. That need to be changed, man. Mice and polo cannot be have the separate thing. The Ministry of Needs handle both. And the more fund go to the polo rather than going to the mice. That's the reality in the industry. So developing this mega convention cities as 5 reason NSDWC, which India is doing. So we need to have the mice focus there. Thank you, ma'am. We need to have a very aggressive plan for the marketing. ICPB already prepared a mice film showing the preparedness thing. We can collaborate with the Ministry of Tourism, and let's have a more focus to start sending the signal that India is ready to welcome the guests. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Amrish. I think you've summed it up very well. And I'm sure all the presidents will give us a written report also in case we have missed out something in recording. Now I'll request FHRI. Uh, is FHRI, who's there from FHRI?
Dr. Himanshu Talwar is there.
Please, would you like to add anything, Dr. Himanshu?
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. I think ma'am has covered more or less everything, and all present here have also covered. Just one point, sir, that Nidhi scheme of MOT is something which should also be promoted in a big way, because it'll help hospitality industry, the entire industry, to consolidate and come up with their inputs in terms of employment generation or inviting investments or promotions or infrastructure development and everything. Other than that, I believe more or less everything has been covered, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think that's short and sweet, and you've hit the nail on the head. Thank you. Now I'll request Jyoti from TAI, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, thank you, Subhashji. Hi, Rupinder again. I think the woman's hand is the best. It's like a balm on the wound. And that's what her speech did to us. It was really a balm to all our wounds. And we are so happy that actually you've come and addressed us. And we've been hearing you, and actually we appreciate MOT and your inputs and the Dekho Apna Desh a lot. Just to reiterate a few points which I had written to you, and you have replied back to that on the tourist visa opening up, and of course the RT-PCR test, which should be mandatory, but we want the costs to be waived off somehow with the private stakeholders, which we've already said. And even for the people who are waiting there, we want the meals and comfortable seating, resting facilities, etc., to be facilitated when they are coming in. So of course, and we have asked for flights beyond VBM, beyond air bubbles, which is very important. But seeing all this, which we've already said, and insurance playing a very prominent role, which you are working on it, I believe, yes. And we need to take that forward in a very strong footing, because I think that's the need of the hour, especially for domestic also, because I feel the moment people have that confidence, and like we've said that earlier, the confidence we generated, and that can only happen if we also start moving around, which we are not. So I think associations should be incentivized to take members interstate, so that confidence comes in. Can I have the speaker person who's talking, please? Can you keep yours, Mr. Balbir? Can you please? Yeah, thank you. So I think though these things are very important, but certain things that I would like to add on to this is that incentivization, yes, is going to be playing a very, very important role for everything. But one thing which I feel is very important is which Pranav also said, that the members getting and registering with the MOT. And I think the rules and regulations, which we've already been discussed many times, needs to be done on a war footing ASAP, because our members are finding it very difficult to register there with all the lot of things that they cannot actually go ahead with it. As a matter of fact, saying this because this is an aviation meet also, we would request you that, you have staff which has to be recognized by the Ministry of Tourism. We would say that even our members who have got IATAs, because IATA is again a regulatory body, should be allowed to become register on your portal, because that is a way of getting in all our members which are more into ticketing. But we've seen that ticketing is not going to be the only source of revenue for our members. So we need them to be enrolling much more on Ministry of Tourism, though they are all involved in tourism. It's just that we've segregated them in such a manner that it's not ease of registering on the portal. So I think we need to really look at that at ASAP. And saying that, I'm going to move forward with that Dekho Apna Desh is a wonderful initiative, but we really need to move forward with that Dekho Apna Desh and now start training our members and the frontliners to start selling domestic tourism. That is not happening because, there's a shift in business. There's a shift in the way we are looking at things, and everyone just can't jump into selling domestic tourism. We know it's going to be there for the next 1 year, maybe not 6 months is a very short time. I would say the whole of next year would go more in domestic tourism and inbound tourism. So we need to hold some more sessions with them to say how they can be dealing, what are the packages that they need to be selling more, and I said this in my first meeting on 10th August also, we need those packages branded so that they can sell to all the inbound passengers also, because they are a very strong hold with the inbound, because we are the ones who are, mostly of them, they are the ones who are doing all the ticketing also. So it's very easy for us to sell them as an add-on. If they know what to sell, how to be branded, whom to deal with. We are very skeptical dealing with our new people today, because we don't know what the strength is and how strong they are in the market. So all this needs to be filtered down and from the Ministry of Tourism, because I think it's time that we work we are working very closely. I'm not arguing on that, but I think we need to work on a much stronger thing with you all to say how we can educate. And I think skilling is going to play a very important role in that. How can we skill our staff which is already working with me today to sell domestic tourism? How can each and every one become an ambassador of domestic tourism, and inbound tourism, because I take always inbound into domestic, because I think it's a huge spread out platform which we can do. And like Amrish said about incentives and MICE and weddings, and we need to just actually train our staff, and for that, I think we should work together with you more closely to take that forward in whatever format, like rural tourism, pro tourism. We should be working with states and cities. So we could be city specialists, we could be state specialists, all those things need to be actually come into place so that, we can move forward. There's lots of things that keep going in our mind. And of course, I'm supposed to be having another meeting with you soon, which we will take forward. I don't want to take everyone's time, but yes, some points which I felt were very important, which needed to be taken right now.
Thank you. I think we covered a lot of points. I would request all the other people to just, because, we have so many speakers, all the 10 associations. So if you can make it a little more brief. And please, I would request everyone who's not speaking to be on mute, because, and Kapil, please ensure that the people who are not speaking are on mute. Now I'll request from Hotel Association of India, is anyone there? Okay, then I'll request, Nakul is from Hotel Association, so it's all right. Now Tafi, can I request Pradeep ji to please briefly tell us on his viewpoint, Tafi's viewpoint.
Thank you, Shabazji. And Rupenderji, as always, you're a very eloquent speaker. Thank you for sharing good points of how to go ahead. I would actually try to only divide our current situation into supply, demand, and what is there today. The supply side, of course, is the airlines. Green shoots, the domestic has come to 80%, but the international is yet below 10%, with the exception of some bubble flights. So, of course, our request is that at least where the bubble flights are there, there should be scheduled flights. Regulation in even in the domestic airports about the health requirements, the PCR with the RT-PCR tests should be regulated. But most important, what I would say is that what a lot of people are asking me, whether it's domestic or international, wherever they're going, what are the hospital facilities over there, and what are the beds available in terms of emergency, especially ventilators and all. Now, that is a very important point. So if for tourism, if we can have that kind of segregation, there could be some sort of confidence on that, because today health is very important. So if that could be there, because there are a lot of points, like we have got 143 airports, but unfortunately the hospital facilities in these upcoming areas are not there to the point. So if, or in the near vicinity, if things could be worked out. And of course, we do have emergency helicopter services where we can use for emergency. So that is one part. Secondly, of course, we all know that even the IATA figures say that global international tourism or international flights are only currently at 35%. So for us to go forward is a big task. And yes, we always refer to historic details. That very important was that our inbound pre-COVID was about 10 crores. That's 100 million, which 99 point whatever. But going forward to establish that, we have to have a lot of things to encourage people to now come with a new behavior pattern. Everyone knows that the way of doing business has changed. Even in the last, when we were with your Civil Aviation Secretary, Karola ji himself said that the business travel would reduce. So now the business travel, which is the main stay in the tourism, and most airlines, of course, make more money on the business and the higher ends of the class. If that goes, there has to be substitution. So I think personally, we all in faith, we should have some sort of a communication which should be very positive, which shows that we are open with, of course, emphasis on safety, with the emphasis of other things, availability, and things like that. And as we go forward, even if the scheduled flights come, as we see now that the pricing will be high. So again, there is an erosion of demand at the bid levels, at the consumer levels. And for that, I think, Rupendraji, you're the right person, because you've always been with the income tax as told, and you know about the taxation. So GST currently, we know, have come to the level pre-COVID. In November, the GST collection was 110,000 crores. So if on the direct taxes level, if some sort of impetus is given to corporates or to other people, where maybe a 5 lakh or a 2 lakh or something, if you actually buy tickets from or you buy a program from a tour program and all from a registered GST agent, you can get exemption from your total taxes. So that is one part which I think is very important. And other things, if just to create, there has to be a stimulus as we open out, and even in restaurants, hotels, things like if the government can support something that maybe for a time being, it's like a walking stick till we are able to walk. Because I personally feel that to even come back to pre-COVID would be 2 years, and now is the time to the in between is to survive. And even amongst our members, many of our members even call me up on daily basis and ask me that 8 months are gone, and we are putting our hands in our pocket and spending, and how long can we do that? So I said, I assure them that things will open out. There are positive things, green shoots are there. India has now been substituted in terms of China and things like that. So, but from the government side, if some sort of confidence level on the cash flow, which is the major stake, because see today, as I see from even the monetary report which came yesterday, they said that everything is revived, and that's why we have not we are accommodative and things like that. And inflation, we can bear the inflation with the growth. But the point today is that in our industry, we are actually on the other side. The other industries are 80% revived and 20% low, and we are actually 20% with 80% yet to go. So I think from the ministry level on the whole segment, some sort of ways to stimulus and maintain people who are there. That I think is important. And of course, with your background, you know better. You can even maybe give me guidelines if I speak to you. But no, I'm just. I'm talking as a layman, because so this is the other part, and of course now. IATA is, of course, coming up with the health card and all, but I feel that that will be yet some time for people to, even in India, when we start vaccinating, I think let the vaccinations take place to the whole public. So I think only the PCR RT certificate should be required now for people to travel. And of course, as Jyoti ji has said, and very important part, that it should be part of the expense taken by the government, and of course, and insurance on airlines going under. We have, of course, spoken to the Civil Aviation Secretary, and we said that across the industry, of course, in TAFE, we are working out ways where there could be a premium which could be a part of the ticket, and it could ensure credibility to the industry, where money could be, in case of a default of an airline, would be paid to the passenger through the travel agent and things like that. And the other things, of course, are moving forward. I'm very confident. And on the plus side, as we see that I'm very proud of our Prime Minister, who has actually, of course, people say that we are feeling the economic effect, but we introduced the lockdown the earliest. And with this, we have saved so many lives. And our geographies are different.
I also want to talk. I'm Sanjeev from Mamta Travels.
So please,
Yes.
please hold on.
Okay. Should I? Have I exceeded my time? Then I'm just saying in short that we know the difficulties. We know, but we only want ease of doing business and a stimulus currently, which will help us to look forward. To maintain, to at least survive in the current situation and then grow later. And of course, the Dekho Bharat Desh is very good. It has educated most of us, and I'm sure that domestic tourism, with this communication which you have done to the industry, will help into recommunicating to our other passengers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradeep. I think you're not a layman, you're an extraordinary man. Call yourself a layman.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I will request everyone to keep it a little short. And secondly, please send us your questions in the chat box or other things, because first the 10 organizations will speak before anyone else gets a chance, if the time permitting. And now I'll request Maharaja Gaj Singh ji or anyone from the Heritage Hotel Association is there. So
Vijay Lal and Mr. Rakesh Mathur.
So one person will be allowed. Anyone who'd like to.
I'm Jörg Drexel. I'm from hotelier from Cochin, and
are you representing the Heritage Hotel Association?
Yeah, I'm the joint secretary of that.
Okay. Okay, fine.
I'm a hotelier in Cochin, and I have Heritage Hotels. I'm for 20 years in the executive committee. A friend of mine from Cochin, he wanted to travel to the US last week, and he canceled the flight because he realized that if he goes there, he's 1 week in quarantine, and coming back, he's again in quarantine. And whatever time he would have spent with his family members, he would have spent the same time in quarantine. And I think the quarantine is, in the moment, one of the biggest obstacles we have for the for flights. There is a kind of a tendency now in the flights between the US and Europe and the UK, where they have at both sides, or at one side, they do the testing, that they test you before you enter the flight. The last thing is, yesterday they announced that on flights between Atlanta and Amsterdam with Delta and with KLM, and then you avoid the quarantine because you go already tested on the flights.
Yes,
And
sir. If you can focus on the points which are needed for the Heritage Hotel Association. I think these quarantine issues and other issues have already been taken up by the various associations with the health ministry and the government. Right now, I would request if you could focus on the heritage hotel requirements and vis-a-vis the tourism ministry in points. That's all.
Well, I just wanted to say that for my part, that we cannot guess guests if they have long quarantine times, and we depend a great deal on international guests. Of course, we are very happy with the domestic guests. But if we could do a system with a QR code where people coming in and get tested, for us, it's also important in the rural areas that the host community has an assurance that the guests coming in, they cannot carry the virus. It's very important.
Thank you very much. As far as India is concerned, if you have a negative, test 96 hours before, there is no quarantine here. At least you can do home quarantine. And on arrival, also the airports have made you can have a test on arrival also. And once you are negative, there's no quarantine. Only if you're positive, there'll be quarantine. Now, I'll request the domestic tour operators, President Mr. P.P. Khanna, if you're there.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Very nicely, you have briefed about the India and the domestic tourism. That this is a time when we can really promote domestic tourism in India, and which is a lifeline at the moment. Yes, madam, we really appreciate for all these things, and the initiative taken by the Ministry of Tourism, Dekho Apna Desh, which is really very, very knowledgeable to all of us, not only to the tour operators, even to the buses of India. That is that's the best thing which we have to, but still we are still lacking. We have done a lot of efforts for that Dekho Apna Desh with different states, the presentations. And Edito, I also have done a lot of knowledge sessions with the states and with the hoteliers. But, intra-state is okay. Interstate promotion is still we are lacking. See, what is happening, that what exactly we are doing it, that we know about the Delhi. If we are in Delhi and NCR, we only know that we have to go to the Rajasthan or to the Himachal or to the Uttarakhand. But what about the other states? We are unable to still promote the other states like the Maharashtra, the Gujarat, the Kerala, the Andhra Pradesh, and the Jammu and Kashmir, the Northeast. We are still lacking because we don't know exactly where to send our clients to those places, because we know that I can go to Rajasthan, to Jaipur, to Udaipur, and people from Maharashtra, they know they can go to Lonavala or they can go to Mahabaleshwar. And Gujarat people know that they can go to nearby places to Saputara or to Dandi. But what about the interstate to other cities? We are still lacking. And on the other side, that rightly my other colleagues also said that the nearby travel is more popular, taking their own cars, private vehicles, people traveling, because there is still a fear in the minds of the people, like we are talking about tourism and aviation today, that we are talking about 80% will be not allowed on the aircrafts. But still, are we not really adhering to the social distancing if we are increasing the capacity in the aircraft? Because where is the social distancing? Like you very rightly said, you had last week you had been to Calcutta, and there was everything was so perfect and everything. But well, on board, are you not maintaining the social distancing? So that too we have to add to all these things, taking into consideration. And right, like my other colleagues also said that, this is the time when really the Ministry of Tourism and the other, the tourism ministries, they can clearly see the incentives part on the domestic tourism. Whosoever travels within India, they should be given some type of incentives or some kind of a income tax rebate in that. Traveling up to 150 lakh, which we have already given to the ministry, that we can do. And we can also start about the small, MICE events where actually people will be thinking and will create a kind of a confidence in the minds of the people once they will see the corporates have already started with the small events, and it will be inverted into the big events. And also about by other colleagues like Mr. Satar, and they have said that still we are waiting for the MDA, we are waiting for the MOT guidelines, new guidelines, because a lot of people are asking that we are at the editorial level, we are trying to make more and more people organized way by authorizing by the MOT or by the DOT, but still we are waiting for the new guidelines if it can be done as soon as possible. So we will be thankful to you. So we are waiting for the MDA as well as MOT guidelines if it can be added as soon as possible. Thank you.
PP. Thank you, PP. I'll request the points that have been covered by other associations should not be repeated. Now I'll request Captain Sudesh Kumar or anyone else from the Adventure Tour Operators Association if he's there or anyone there. Please unmute Captain or whoever is there from Adventure Tour Operators. Kapil?
Captain Suresh Kumar is there. From my side, he's been unmuted duly.
So, Captain, can you unmute yourself, please? Hanji, Captain Saab. Okay. In the meantime, I think he's having a technical glitch. In the meantime, if anyone from Tourist Transporters Association is there.
Can't see anyone from ITA, sir.
Captain Sudesh Kumar, are you there? Now,
I want to talk, sir. I'm Sanjeev from Patna, Mamta Travels.
Please hold on now. Please don't disturb. Please. We have... hello? Is Captain... okay.
He's not on the line now.
Okay. Now, there are a lot of airlines who are there. And I'll request GMR, who has been coordinating this event or initiated this event with us. If you'd like any of the airlines to give in their point of view, since this is an aviation and tourism.
Sir, I will coordinate with the airlines and then we'll forward those points to you and to Madam so that then they can keep the thoughts with us.
Okay. Can I ask Rakesh Mathur from the Heritage Hotel Association? He's also one of the founders of Faith. So Rakesh ji, please.
Thank you so much, Subhash ji, and thank you, everyone. My colleague Jörg was there, and I just wanted to add that one of the key things that the Heritage Hotel Association has been wanting is some kind of a national policy guideline for heritage properties, which are mainly based in rural areas. 90%, not 90 maybe, but 80% of the properties are in rural areas and they have their peculiar problems. So without going into much detail, I would just like to request that a special meeting be called to discuss the issues of heritage. And I'll give a very small example. if you take the bar license fee in any state, Rajasthan has of course reduced it, but many states have a very, very high bar license fee, ranging between 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs. Now, rural properties are not commercial bars. They cannot afford to pay a high fee like this. They are basically a facility for the guest. So there are many such peculiar problems in rural areas for heritage properties, which I would like to be addressed. And also, rural properties are heritage properties are essentially were catering to a very high percentage of foreign clientele, and a lot of remodification and a sort of a retailoring of these properties is required, where they need funds. And that is the second most important thing at this stage. Having said this, I don't have very much to say right now, except a
Thank
new
you.
policy will address some of these issues. I have only one request for, if GMR is here, I would like to please request GMR to kindly take up with the airport, at all airports, the most troublesome and the most disgusting thing that is happening is people standing in queues and lines and boarding buses and boarding aircraft with the knapsacks on their backs. They don't care at all about hitting people who are standing behind them. Half the time, these knapsacks are full of bacteria. So I think there should be a rule that the moment you enter a ticketing queue or a boarding or a bus or an aircraft, please take your knapsacks and put them in front.
Thank
I
you.
think that's a very, very important, and a
Thank
lot of
you.
people I've spoken to agree with me on
Thank you,
this.
Rakesh ji.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next Saturday, we have the Chairman Airport Authority, and I think all issues regarding airports may please be sent to us in writing. I'm sorry because our time, we already offshooted our time by more than 20 minutes because it was from 11:30 to 12:30. Now we are nearing quarter to 1. We have about 15-20 people who are in the queue for questions. So Sanjeev ji from Mamta will not be able to take your question online. Please send us your question or your observation offline, and I am sure we will incorporate it in our report to the Ministry of Tourism. And I also don't have time to sum up all the issues, I think, because Madam and other people have to leave. I think now I'll request GMR to formally propose a vote of thanks. I'm sorry we have run out of time by more than 20 minutes. So Jatinder Singh ji, just if you can propose a vote of thanks, and then we can close the session.
So thank you very much, Ms. Madam, for giving time on, especially on a Saturday, to the members of the faith and giving various steps and the measures being taken by the government of India. And as we have said, that you will be forwarding us an email also so that we can further work upon that, and we also know on what steps the government is working, so we can also coordinate on those steps. And the one proposal which you have given, that the senior people who are traveling, they should try to upload their videos or the experience on the web, which will give the content. That's a good proposal, and I'm sure that you will also be doing for that. And definitely there is a focus on domestic tourism also along with the international tourism. So we will request you, as the Pranab Sarkar has also requested, to take up the issue of opening up the tourist visa along with the e-visa with the Ministry of Home Affairs. That will also boost, because it will take time, as various members have said, that it takes time for travelers to plan the tourism. So even if you open today, it will happen only after 2-3 months when they will be coming up. And of course, training and the skilling of the manpower in this new normal will also be an important point. And I also thanks various members of the faith and the airlines who are in this meeting to spare time and come up and hear the views of Madam. Thank you very much once again, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I just got a message. If anyone from Adventure tour operators there, if Captain Sudesh Kumar cannot speak, so maybe you can quickly, in a minute or so, say your point. Otherwise, you have to send it to us in writing. And tourist transporters also, if no one is there from any of the EC members or executive committee members, send your points in writing. Once again, thank you, GMR. Is anyone there? Thank you, GMR, for having initiated this move. Next Saturday, again, we will be announcing another important guest speaker. And the Saturday after that, we have the Chairman, Airport Authority of India. So any the people who are here, if any questions you have, please be kind enough to forward them to the Faith Secretariat. Thank you once again. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. Very kind of you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Subhash. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.